28 days later. What's up, patrons? How you guys doing? I shaved. You see that? I shaved like... Did I shave today? Yeah, I shaved today. I needed it. I needed to. It was getting scruffy. I can't get a haircut, but at least I can shave, right? And if I don't get a haircut soon, this freaking mop is going to get a little crazy, okay? I'm having to like move things over here and move things over here, and it's not pretty, guys. It's not pretty at all. But how are you guys doing? I got my creepy music in the background. Let me pull this up. Jason says he's doing good. Derek, doing good. Now, like I said in the patron page, I'm gonna give it like a good 10 minutes and see how many we get in here. Like right now, we got 5, and I'm happy with 5. If you guys are happy with 5, I'm happy with 5. I think 5 people is a good amount, including me. I guess that would be 6. And yeah, we can watch this movie with 6 people. You know what? If I was at my house and I had 6 people at my house watching a movie, I think that'd be more than enough, right? So, Jason, you shaved your head? There's been a few people. I think that's like a trend right now. It's a lot of people are shaving their heads. It's either you shave your head or you have a significant other that can actually cut hair, which those are the luckiest people on the planet right now. Or you just, let it go hog wild, right? My wife is an ex-hairdresser, so I'm set. See, Jason Mongold. Yeah, he's all set. And I think that's awesome. Let me move this over a little bit. You can hear my vinyl in the background. I always got some freaking Halloween planned. See, now we got 7 people. That's even better. That's awesome. I'm happy. You know what? I haven't even... Let me start this up real quick. And I guess I can take this... I don't really need this, do I? I guess I don't. So, I'm going to take that out. Let's see. Let me make sure I gave all the... Let's see. I got Jason, Derek... going down. Jesse Yarborough, how you doing, brother? Nice. Yeah, a lot of good people. People have also been dyeing their hair like crazy. We can't keep colors in stock at work. That's interesting. Let me turn off my vinyl real quick, and I'm gonna turn this on. Did I do that right? Yeah, I think I did that right. Luckily, I left my TV setup because I had like a makeshift TV setup because I don't really have, an actual flat screen TV like permanently in here anymore. I used to, but I don't now. But now, luckily I kept this makeshift setup. So I'm looking right at it right now. It's a 32-inch TV, but because it's like literally 4 feet from my face, it's plenty big enough. Brock Savage, how are you doing, man? I shaved my head a week and a half ago. Awesome. I seriously thought about shaving my head. But I don't think the public could take that. You know, when I was in the military, I used to shave my head every time I'd go on deployment. Because when you go into deployment, you don't care. It's like, who are you trying to impress, right? So you get over there, you don't want to have to deal with it, so you just get it shaved off. Because it grows back, and by the time you come back from deployment, you got a full head of hair again. So it's cool. Let me change my input here. I think it's going to be HDMI. Hold on, guys. Let me set up my HDMI here real quick. Okay, let me try that again. Who's doing Hulu? Is anybody doing Hulu, or is everybody doing the Blu-ray? Because I got the Blu-ray handy. And I noticed that Hulu, they do like ads. But I've watched like full movies in the past on Hulu, and for some reason they didn't put any ads in the movie. So I guess it was kind of a nice bonus. Lee, I think Blood Rage could use a remake. I think it could be badass. Yeah, I would definitely go for. I mean, because there's only one Thanksgiving horror movie that I know of. I'm sure I'm missing one, but that's the only one I can think of that's Thanksgiving. So do a remake of Blood Rage, or better yet, even make just a whole new, you know, Thanksgiving horror movie. Finally make Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth movie. Derek's going Hulu for tonight. Cool. I'm glad somebody's going Hulu because I'm interested in seeing how that experience goes. All right, so I just clicked on mine right now. Jesse has the Blu-ray. Sweet. All right, let me turn off my vinyl real quick. What do you guys got to eat? I got a Gatorade and a Coke and not nearly enough food. I thought about getting some chips, but I don't want you guys to like hear me freaking crunching on chips. But I got a Butterfinger. It's one of those little mini Butterfingers. And I got it's a half of a Quaker Big Chewy peanut butter granola bar. So, hold on just a sec. Let me turn off. All right, cool. Let me know if you guys have your movie at the ready. Because I don't want to start this unless you guys are ready to start this. Okay, I want us to all hit play at the same time. Chips and dip. God damn, that sounds good actually. And a beer, nice cold beer. Man, you're making me want to go get my chips. I have some barbecue chips in there. I love barbecue and I love Cool Ranch. But, what do you call them? Tostitos, chips with dip. Oh, that's good stuff right there. Oh, Doritos. Yeah, Doritos, all you need to survive. And a couple cans of Coke. Yep. Play when ready. Okay, cool. Cool. So, I think we're ready, guys. I think we're ready to do some 28 days later. I seriously thought about doing 28 weeks later, but I was like, you know what? Let's do days. Let's do days first. Brock Savage is good to go. Sweet. This is so cool you guys are hanging with me. This is fun. All right, guys. I'm going to count it down. And you know what I count it down from? 10, right? So we're going to count it down. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Play. And we're off. You know, I would say the 28 days later font, and if you're a YouTuber, you'll know what I'm talking about, is one of the most widely used fonts in the horror community. It is. I don't know, and it's literally called 28 Days Later. That's what the font is called. So, and it's probably the font that I use the most. You know, I use a lot of different fonts in my titles, you know, because I like to. You got to catch that eye, right? So you got to mix it up and show a little. So I got probably like 3 or 4 fonts I use. One of them's called Creepsville. One of them's called Creepy Crawlers. Anything with creepy in it, it's probably going to be a good horror font, right? But 28 Days Later, it's a really good font. Font. If you say that word like 5 times, it starts sounding weird. Okay, right at the beginning of the movie, they show all this crazy footage, and this could not be more relevant than today. Now a lot of this footage is from like, you know, wars and oppression and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, Danny Boyle, the director of this, he wanted to use a lot of different. He was inspired by a lot of photos, actually, like photos from these atrocities that happen all over the world throughout time, and he would like take certain photos and kind of build his story around there, or at least the images from the story around there, you know. And we'll get into like the inspiration for the rage virus instead of going with the traditional zombie route. Yeah, but look at the film there. That is, they filmed this with Canon DV cameras, pretty much. This is one of the first digital video cameras, too, by the way. Movies shot almost entirely in digital video. But he wanted a rough looking film to kind of represent this, this story. And I actually went on eBay. Michael L. Rakes, how you doing, man? I actually went on eBay and I looked up the camera that he used on this. Let me pull it up real quick. It is, let's see if I go to my pics. Yeah, there it is right there. It's a Canon XL1 mini DV camcorder. That's exactly what it looks like. And you can see that you can buy that camera for $200 today. But that's exactly what they used. They used around like 6 cameras at a time for this movie. And the reason they ended up using that camera was because a lot of times they wouldn't be able to get permission. If they were shooting with like regular 35 millimeter, logistically, it could have been a nightmare, especially in London, in the UK, and a lot of the big cities. You only get like a certain amount of time, especially on the big highways, so you only get like an hour in the morning. And so they had to be able to pull the cameras out and be ready to go, in a moment's notice, within minutes. And that's why they went with these cameras. And it worked out because of the story. I like it too. I actually love the way this movie looks, This is probably one of the most complained about Blu-rays on the market because of the picture quality. Because a lot of people don't realize that is the source. That is the picture quality. It's intentional. And people don't realize that. They want this movie to look crystal clear. But I think that would defeat the purpose of the movie, Let me turn it up just a little bit. Actually, I like to put on my subs. Yeah, okay. And it's interesting, too, that this whole thing started with a chimpanzee. And this whole coronavirus started with a bat, And it doesn't really say it in this movie, but the idea is that it started with Ebola, and then Ebola gradually mutated into the rage virus. That's a great opening, too. It's just a terrifying opening, you know? Because going into this movie, you don't know, like, how fast these people are going to turn into the infected. I'll just call them zombies for the sake of calling them zombies, even though a lot of you are going to argue that these are not zombies, and they're not really. But Danny Boyle and Alex Garland were inspired by the big. Oh, that there's that image of the eyes, with the red eyes. I think that's one of the most striking images. Very, very creepy. I think because of the infection, the rage virus, and what the rage virus causes, how people react to the rage virus, I think that's a big reason why this is one of my favorite, I guess you could call it, zombie movies. It's my favorite of that subgenre. Yeah, I missed the 20th Century Fox opening too. It's a shame. I wonder if they'll still keep it though. I think they might actually. There's Cillian Murphy and his jump parts. I'm sure that was a closed set. But at least, male actors, they can kind of experience what female actors go through. Because I'm sure being a female, it's not the funnest thing to have your breasts out exposed in front of an entire crew, or even just a couple cameramen. So Cillian Murphy is getting a first-hand experience of what that's like. Jason says, you got the sequel, but you haven't seen it yet. I prefer the sequel. I think the sequel is so good. It's literally one of my favorite zombie movies. One thing I love about the sequel is how it plays with emotion and scenarios. Like, what if you were a father and you had to leave your family, uh, because you're being chased by the infected with the rage virus. And so that idea comes into play later in the movie, and it really has some disastrous results, some really scary results, actually. And I didn't give anything away there, but yeah, I love the sequel. The sequel is so good to me. It's one of those part twos that ups the ante, if you will. I didn't see this one in the theater, but I did see part two in the theater. And there's one scene in part two that if I did a top 10 most frightening scenes, it would be that one of the scenes from Weeks. It is that scary of a scene. At least to me it was. So we got our main character Jim, again played by Cillian Murphy. He just woke up. Can you imagine? You just wake up and you don't know what happened. There's nobody around, and the place looks like a dump. You go outside. You're the only person. So it's a scenario that's been, like Resident Evil did this, Dawn of the Dead. Omega Man, I guess. I'm trying to think of what would be the first movie to actually have a character go outside and there be absolutely nothing. And I wonder if it could be Omega Man. Because that doesn't happen in Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead, at least that scenario. I don't remember it happening. I mean, just imagine like everything that's going through his mind right now. Your mind's just got to be racing. Where am I going to find food? Where am I going to find shelter? And I believe that's London. I have never been to London, unfortunately. I've always wanted to visit there, but I'm pretty sure that's London. So Michael Rake says the Omega Man is awesome. Maybe the first is Last Man on Earth from Vincent Price, which is the same story of Omega Man, the novel I Am Legend. Yeah, I know I Am Legend. There's like two movies that predate it. I think there's like three different I Am Legend movies. One of them being Omega Man. So Michael, you're saying the Last Man on Earth, and then of course I Am Legend. Guys, for some reason, I've just been like hooked on Butterfingers lately. And I'm not getting paid by Butterfinger. I'm being dead serious, okay? I think they changed up their formula or something because they're a little bit softer. And I used to never be a Butterfinger guy. I was definitely a Fifth Avenue guy for the longest time, but I can't like find Fifth Avenue bars anymore. Like I think I would still buy Fifth Avenue over Butterfinger. But what's good is like I buy these little packs and I have like cookies and cream ice cream and I shave these little packs. I shave them over the cookies and cream. And it's quite delicious. Quite delicious. Yeah, no, this whole scene right here, they're in like the busiest section of London. They had, I believe they had 2 hours to do this between 7 and 9 a.m. And so they had security out pretty much directing traffic, keeping them away. But I've always been into the logistics of these types of movies, like how to, especially in big cities like New York, like I Am Legend, like it must be a huge undertaking to clear the streets of New York for anything. We're talking about other than the coronavirus, because I'm sure the streets of New York, like I know for a fact, one of my buddies, Michael Mims, I don't think he'd mind me saying that. He was telling me that, like, because he lives in New York, and he was telling me that, like, in the morning there's like barely anybody on the streets. They have some good music in this movie too. Let me turn it up just a bit. Yeah, I love the music in this movie, especially that the 28 Days Later theme. It's probably one of my favorite themes. Now, you see that wall there with all those names? This movie came out in 2002, pretty much right after 9/11. It was filmed before and during 9/11. So, it was kind of a controversial scene to have all those, those missing people on the walls, because that's literally what life was at the time in New York. Right after 9/11, it was pretty insane. And I can't believe that we're almost 20 years to the date of 9/11. Next year it'll be 20 years. To me, that is just insane, because I still remember 9/11 like it was yesterday. I don't know about you guys, but it's weird. Extremely fucking nigh. The end is extremely fucking nigh. Yeah, I was actually in Kuwait. Let me know what you guys were doing on 9/11. I've always asked people this. I find it curious. Like certain dates, like when I talk to, older, elderly folk, I always ask them, what were you doing when JFK was killed? I don't know why. I just always want to know that. It's just interesting to me. So let me know what you guys were doing. What do you remember about 9/11? I remember I was in Kuwait at the time. I was in the military. And I had deployed there back in June of 2001. And I was scheduled to come home at the end of September. So 9/11 happened. And I remember coming home from work, because it was in the afternoon where I was because of the time change. And I just remember in the dorms, everybody was getting off work, and every room, the door was open, which was not normal. Usually people get home from work, they go in their rooms, they close their door. But every door was open. And so I'm like walking down the hallway. Every TV in every room was on like CNN, like Derek's showing there. And the first tower had just been hit. So I literally watched the second tower get hit live from my room. And can you imagine the fear? Because the first one had been hit. We didn't know what the hell it was. We thought it was just like one of those little Cessna planes accidentally ran into it. But then the second one got hit, and then we were like, oh my God, what the hell's happening? We're under attack. And then the Pentagon gets hit. It was a scary day, guys. Let me just say that. It was a really, really scary day. And we never had it before, and we still haven't had it, thankfully, since. It was just insane. To watch those two towers fall. Well, I still can't get that image out of my head. It was crazy. So Jim, he went into the church, and the priest is infected. And so now he's running. I love this camera shot here where he's running, and the camera's like right on his face. A lot of interesting shots in this. The positioning of the camera, a lot of close up. It just goes to show that even on the cheapest camera, if you know what you're doing, and by God, I don't know what I'm doing, but if you know what you're doing, you can still pull off a very effective footage if you have plenty of coverage, And it's also a testament to how important sound is, because even like it doing YouTube, sound is more important than video. Video is important, but if you have the clearest video, but your sound sounds like you're in a tunnel, or there's just this huge echo behind you, nobody will want to watch your video. It just ruins the video. So watching this movie, sure, the video footage isn't the clearest, but the sound is crystal clear. Can you imagine if that sound actually sounded like somebody just holding a camera, and you use the actual raw audio from the camera? You wouldn't be able to watch the movie. Yeah, Jason, I haven't seen the first 28 Days Later quite a while, actually. It's been quite a while. Because Weeks is usually my go-to. Because Weeks, I think, is the funner movie of the two, I guess. It's the more entertaining movie of the two. Not taking anything away from Days. Days is still one of the best zombie movies out there. Bar none. The infight with Hulk Edward Norton was filmed right in Toronto here. Oh, interesting. I love that movie. Don't get me started on the Hulk, Jason. Brock Savage, 10th grade science class. Yeah, that must have been crazy being in high school. Jason Mongo, 9/11, I was sitting in woodshop freshman year high school when they announced it over the intercom. Derek Willrather says, in 8th grade, and we were watching CNN pretty much all day. It was a crazy day. Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, I mean, pretty much work stopped. But, like I said, I had just gotten off work, so I still worked the day. Had to go in the next day. But, we were like in a daze for quite a while, Nobody could, because this was unprecedented. This was very new, and we just like what we're going through right now. What we're going through right now is very unprecedented. We don't know what tomorrow brings. It's a scary time. Jason says, I was at work in Pickering, about 40 kilometers from Toronto. Michael says, I was supposed to be working at Dulles International, got called the night before to go to Charleston, West Virginia. 2 days later, the Pentagon jet was hijacked from there. I watched this live, unfortunately. Jesse Yarborough says, I was at work and my family called and told me come home ASAP. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, Michael, Weeks does look pretty slick. Like, it starts off, very, very chaotic. And then it kind of settles into the story a little bit. And then there's that moment, and I don't want to spoil it for Jason or anybody who hasn't seen it, but there's that moment where two key characters come head to head, and then it just freaking explodes and never lets up. Selena, this is a very important character here. I found her so interesting. So Jim, he just came up on Selena, and I believe it's her brother. And he's concerned. He's talking about there's no government now. Can you imagine being in a time where there's no government? Because like even what we're going through right now, we have a government. We have guidance. But just imagine not having anything, not having TV, not having government, not having radio, just having to fend for yourself and not knowing what's around the corner. That's what these characters are going through. And there's like a backstory on Selena. She actually went to Danny Boyle and she's one of those actors that really wanted to know her character's backstory. It's very common. Seems like every movie, there's always one actor or actress that really wants to know what their backstory is. It helps them to form the character. And so they came up with this idea that her her parents, she had to kill her parents and save her brother. And so knowing that, it made the scene that's coming up that more impactful. Have you seen the Headhunter on Shudder? You should check it out. No, or Headhunter. No, and it seems like every time I turn on Shudder, and I don't turn on Shudder enough, there's always like 3 or 4 things that pop out at me that I want to watch, and I'm like, God damn it. Shudder is such a great resource for horror fans. It really is. Shudder, Tubi, just really great stuff. I think Netflix, their horror content's just pretty lackluster, if I'm being honest. But Shudder is great because they have a lot of new stuff. They have a lot of exclusives. And I love that they have a lot of classics, a lot of Giallo type films, a lot of slashers, and it's so user friendly. And yeah, I love it. I can't believe we as horror fans have a resource like that. It's too cool. All right, I'm going to get chips. That's it. I'm going to get chips. I'll be right back, guys. I'm having a blast with you guys, by the way. So we're at the scene where he goes into this house, and you see this like family just laying there dead on the bed. This couple, they just pretty much gave up, and you would probably see a lot of that. Like what we're going through today, it brings up a lot of moral issues too. There's a lot of people that have an opinion about, I guess elephant in the room, like the elderly. Like. There are literally people out there that think, you know what? You've had your chance. Let the elderly go. Let them die and let us get back. And if we stoop to that level as a society, then I think it says a lot. And I don't want to get political or anything, but I think sometimes, good people make bad decisions and they don't think about what the repercussions of those decisions can have. And I think if we have that mindset, that apathetic mindset in not just this situation, but like any situation, I don't know. It's a scary thing to happen. Really, scary times we live in right now, and you're gonna get so many different opinions. Everybody's gonna have an opinion. Because everybody wants to, we all want to get back to life. We all want to get back to normalcy. Just today, me and my wife were like, I can't wait to go back to the theater, or my wife, she likes going to Home Goods. She was like, I can't wait to go back to Home Goods. Those little things in life that we take for granted. But I'm having hers barbecue chips, and they're delicious. I'm one of those guys that when it comes to barbecue chips, I don't like Lay's. Like, I don't like the most expensive ones. The cheaper the brand, the better for me. I don't know, they just taste better to me. These are like a cheap knockoff brand, but to me they taste a lot better than Lay's. And that's just me. Like my son, he actually likes Lay's, but I like these. Oh, I like this shot right here. Like if you look at the top left corner, it's like two images have like dissolved into one, or you get like a remnant of one image in the background. It's very strange looking. Camera pans up, and then it's just a really creative way to present a scene. And Alex Garland and Danny Boyle, they're smart. They're taking the time to get to know these characters. Because right now there's only three characters, so take advantage of that. Get us to a point where we really care about them and we want them to survive. So that way, when what's coming up is going to be even more shocking. Jason says, I can't wait to go to a movie again. Yeah, man. It makes me wonder, like, when we can finally go to a movie. I'm sure they're going to do this in, like, phases. Like, I can't imagine them first weekend letting just everybody flood to the movie theater. Not that everybody would, anyway. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be pretty skittish, and they're going to be pretty safe about whatever they do. Because, I mean, wouldn't it suck if you went through this whole quarantine thing and then you go out and get into a big group and then, you end up getting the virus? It would kind of defeat the purpose. So the infected just broke in. Man, I tell you, the violence is so much more effective because he used the DV cam. That is one of the perks about using lower grade film stock or digital, low grade digital film, is that you can cut your costs on your effects because they look more realistic. And that's rough looking. So he just got cut, and he got the rage virus blood in the cut. And what does she do? She kills him right then and there. She kills, like I said, I believe that's her own brother. But if he's not a brother, he's somebody that's just as close as a brother that she's known for years. And she just literally killed him right in front of everybody. And I think she was able to get herself there because of that backstory. That backstory of her actually having to kill her own parents. But that's why Selena is such an important character, because she's willing to do what is necessary. And sometimes what is necessary is the hardest thing that you could possibly imagine. But she's willing to do it. Yeah, it just looks like a really bleak world, There's nothing sunny. Everything is just overcast and just depressing. It has a depressing feel to it. Yeah, so she just said you got between 10 and 30 seconds to kill them. That's how fast they turn into the rage zombies, I guess. Brock Savage says, I had tickets to see Rancid and the Dropkick Murphys in Manhattan. That won't be happening anytime soon. Yeah. I was supposed to go see Tool 2 days ago, Brock. 2 days ago, I would have been at Tool with my son rocking my face off. I don't know if you're a Tool fan, but they got a song on their new album that's like 15 minutes long, and it's called Tempest. And they just started, like, before this whole thing broke out, they started playing that song live. And I wanted to see that song live so freaking bad. The song is just it's epic. It's really epic in every sense of the word. But now, no. But they did, like, postpone the tour, so my ticket still stands. And whenever they reschedule the date, I should still be able to go. So hopefully that happens within the next couple months. Jason Mongol, I was excited for Top Gun 2. Now I got to wait till Christmas. Yeah, man, so many. Think about that. This is the first time in history that this has happened too, where they just had to wipe the movie slate clean, and we have to wait. And I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday too, that we're watching all this content right now that's already been filmed, but pretty soon, like I would say within the next like 6 months, there's going to be like a void of content, because right now nobody's filming anything with a group of people. They may film some stuff from home or whatever, but yeah, they're not filming that much at all right now. So I'm wondering if in a couple months there's going to be like a void of content. I don't know. We'll see. And maybe there'll be a good thing to come out of this, Like, maybe we'll start getting, like, quality movies. Like, not saying there's not quality movies out there are, but, like, quality movies actually in cinemas that aren't, sequels and remakes. I mean, I'm not holding my breath, don't get me wrong, but it would be interesting if this is, like, the dawn of a new era in cinema. Maybe this forces filmmakers to, I don't know, go a different direction. We'll see. Now, I was talking about Danny Boyle and Alex Garland and how they wanted to create a new type of zombie movie. They didn't want to go with the infected wanting to just eat brains. They didn't want them to be walking slow. They wanted this to be like the most lethal, the deadliest type of villain you could possibly imagine. And they wanted them to run like at top speed. One thing they did behind the scenes too is they hired athletes to play the infected, because they knew that these were people that were going to be running at top speed, multiple takes. So they needed people that were in really good shape. And so that's why the infected looks so goddamn deadly in this movie. And I think 28 Days Later really upped the ante in terms of zombie movies. And if you remember, there was like a resurgence of the zombie movie. There was like a zombie craze for quite a few years. And this kind of started it all, actually. Now they just came up on the father and his daughter, Hannah. I love this guy. This is the guy that was in Braveheart, and he played William Wallace's best friend. You dropped your rock. Yeah, I was reading that Ewan McGregor actually was going to be playing Jim in this movie instead of Cillian Murphy. But then him and Danny Boyle, they had like this falling out, I guess. And so they ended up not going with Ewan. But I'm glad Killian got the part. I think Killian's great in this. And I'm sure if any of you have seen Peaky Blinders, he's really good in that. He's kind of Nolan's golden boy now, because Christopher Nolan uses him a lot, actually, in his movies. Like, I mean, he's in the first two Batman movies. Does he have a part in the third one? I don't think he does. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's in Inception. Like I said, he's just been in... Oh, he's also in... I think... Is he in the newer... I know he's in Dunkirk. But I'm trying to remember if he's actually in Tenet. I would not be surprised if he does end up being in Tenet. And it probably doesn't hurt that he looks like Cillian Murphy, too, if I'm being honest. Like my wife, my daughter, for some reason, if Cillian Murphy is in anything, they want to see it. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, he shows up at the trial. That's right. He is in the trial in The Dark Knight Rises. I actually liked that character, the Scarecrow. You know, I liked him as the villain, or one of the villains in the first movie, in Batman Begins. And he originally tried out for Batman. He did like a screen test and everything to play Batman. I was actually thinking about watching The Dark Knight Rises the other day, because I just haven't seen it in so long. And everybody, you know, everybody talks about The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so good that it took the light off of Rises. Like, if Dark Knight didn't come out, I think Rises would be praised a lot more, because if you look at that movie on its own, it's a remarkable feat of a comic book movie. It really is. And my opinion, still better than just about anything in the MCU. And that sounds horrible for me to say it like that. I'm not trying to like hate on the MCU or anything. I'm glad the MCU exists. It's two different types of comic book movies. I wouldn't want one to bleed into the other. You know? That's kind of the problem I have with DC right now, is not knowing which direction to go. They want to make everything, you know, funny. They want to be like the MCU, which I don't think is the way to go. I like that they started off with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and had the tone that they did. And I wish they would have just stayed the course. Because I do think, in time, years and years down the road from now, I think people will go back and they'll look at Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and start appreciating them more. I do. Now this is an interesting scene, because they're on this roof, and you see like all these buckets. And they want to catch the rain. And can you imagine that? Like, the only water source you got is rain. And it seems like anytime you want rain, it never rains. Like, I remember I was stationed in Washington, Spokane, Washington, for a couple years. And what do we all know about Washington? It rains a lot, right? So we bought a house, and you know, we had just gotten our yard ready, you know, and it needed water. And of course, we were, you know, doing the sprinklers and all that. We didn't have a sprinkler system, though. And we wanted rain so bad. And I remember we went a whole summer, and it felt like it rained maybe one day. Drove me nuts. Did you see the screen test videos? Bale and Murphy in the Batman Forever suit. Oh, no. I did. Oh, yeah, I think I did see the one with Bale in the Batman Forever suit. Because I guess that's owned by Warner Brothers. Like, property of Warner Brothers. And of course, they didn't have the suit for Begins at that point. I'll have to check that out, actually, after this. Michael Rake says, we saw The Dark Knight at a midnight premiere, packed the gills and hotter than the hubs of hell, and it's the only movie I ever saw in theaters where everyone stood up at the end and applauded. Yeah, man, I remember walking out of The Dark Knight and just being so floored. Like, did that just happen? Like, was there a movie that was that good, that was that perfect? You know, and also, when actors pass away, it seems like more times than not, the movie that they leave us with is kind of lacking. Like Aaliyah, for example, when she did Queen of the Damned. Queen of the Damned, not a really good movie, especially when you compare it to its predecessor, Interview with the Vampire. But, you know, I wanted The Dark Knight to be great so bad, and it surpassed my expectations. It's still the movie that I constantly want to throw in. You know, it's just everything. The Dark Knight's everything. You know, and like I said, if it didn't exist, I think Rises would actually have a lot more respect, because people don't talk about Rises that much because of The Dark Knight. Jason Nike says, I will take Rambo, John McClane, or Martin Riggs over any MCU. They are all superheroes. Laugh out loud. Yeah, you know what? I kind of agree with you, actually. Yeah, and here's the funny thing. You know, we've had, I'm just going to say 25 MCU movies come out, right? I might want to go back and watch 2 of them, if I'm lucky. But still to this day, I am constantly reaching back and grabbing Die Hard, grabbing Rambo, you know, grabbing Rocky, grabbing all those 80s flicks, you know, Predator. Those are movies that I'll just watch every freaking year. And it seems like with the MCU, sure, there's a couple movies in there that I'll still watch from time to time. But, I don't know, I guess time will tell, but I don't think they will stand the test of time, I guess. Most of them won't. I think Avengers Infinity War is a really solid movie, actually. I think Endgame, if it didn't have that final showdown scene, then I don't think Endgame would have been as, you know, and I think it because Endgame was the last movie that everybody was just so quick to say, oh, that was the greatest thing ever. But really, was it? It was good. But, you know, I got my problems with it. You know how much I love the Hulk, and the Hulk was just completely shit on. So, big scene coming up here, guys. They're in this car, and they literally just rode over a stack of dead bodies. And you know, trash, rubble, whatever. And pretty soon, you're going to see, like, just a stampede of running infected coming at them. In a situation I definitely would not want to be in. Michael Rake says, I love the MCU films, but man, the jamming 2 to 3 a year and the Netflix series on top of each other, it burned itself out. There are awesome films there, but a lot of films too. Exactly. Completely agree. And I think you're right. I think shoving so many into 1 year, I think now the Black Widow movie that's coming out, I'm not that excited about it, just because I have MCU fatigue, you know. And when I watch the trailer for it, it looks just like everything else. It really does. Yep, here they come. They're running from the infected. Oh, yeah, the rats. Now I wonder if they got real rats. They look like real rats. They could be digital, though. It's hard to tell. And that's a good thing. It's good that they used, this cheap-looking film, because, like I said, you can add in any CGI you want, and you won't even be able to tell. and they're literally having to change the tire and get the thing running again before the infected get to them. Jason, I completely agree, man. Jason Mangold, Kick-Ass was so awesome. Kick-Ass was so refreshing. I loved it. Derek Weirrather, JCVD. Have you seen Universal Soldier Regeneration? That movie surprised the hell out of me. I think that's like the 4th Universal Soldier movie. And for some reason, I rented it like I think 10 years ago or something like that. I rented it. But it's so different than the first Universal Soldier. But I tell you, the hand-to-hand combat in that movie is like next level. Like it felt like we're watching one of those like Jackie Chan type movies. But it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. And the film just looks different too. It almost looks kind of like this. Very dark and gritty. If you haven't seen Regeneration, I can't recommend it enough, actually. The obligatory grocery store scene. They have one of these in just about every zombie movie. Like Zombieland. Somebody pointed out too that like that store would not be like stocked to the brim. And that is a good point. Like if everybody's gone, you know they would have completely raided those shelves. So those shelves would be pretty bare probably. I go back to the Incredible Hulk, Man of Steel, and Logan the most. Yeah, those three. I probably do Incredible Hulk, Batman v Superman. Logan is amazing, and definitely Man of Steel. Those are probably the 4 that I go to a lot. Winter Soldier. As much as I'm shitting on the MCU right now unintentionally, Winter Soldier, that is a kick-ass movie. I do love Winter Soldier. I wonder if that store has toilet paper. I don't think I saw any, if I'm being honest. Isn't that interesting though? Like every one of these like pandemic end of the world movies, not one of them I think have shown like toilet paper, like a lack of toilet paper. It's interesting that when this stuff happens in real life, it's like we could never even guess the one item that it seems like goes off the shelves first, and it's toilet paper. How are your stores doing on toilet paper? Are you seeing more toilet paper on the shelves now? Is it starting to kind of calm down a little bit, the demand? Because, I mean, the demand's still pretty crazy, but for us, like every time I go to the grocery store now, there's usually a couple rows of rolls on there. Yeah, Civil War is great too. Civil War is definitely great. Dolph Lundgren was pretty funny in the first Universal Soldier, actually. Yeah, he was great in the first Universal Soldier. Yeah, I love the first Universal Soldier, actually. That's another one I saw in the theater when it came out. I think it came out in like 92. As I remember, I just came in the military, and I went and seen it. And up to that point, Jean-Claude Van Damme had made a name for himself. You know, he was doing a lot of big movies. And I think that one was like the one that really put him into like a action hero status. Because before that, he had done like No Retreat, No Surrender was like his first movie. And I saw that one in the theater. I had no idea who Jean-Claude Van Damme was. I knew that the movie was very, very low budget. I was shocked that it came to theaters, but I actually had a really good time watching it, actually. And Jean-Claude Van Damme was the bad guy in the movie. And, the big fight at the end of the movie is with Jean-Claude Van Damme. But that's like his only scene in the movie. He's like in the beginning of the movie, being, threatening, and then the end of the movie, he's fighting the main character. So, he just killed a kid with a bat. That's another thing that you're going to see in these zombie movies. Eventually they're in a situation where they have to take the life of someone that's pretty hard to take the life of, meaning a child. I think this movie was such a big hit because of the way it was filmed. Like, I wonder if this movie was filmed in 35 millimeter, which it is. There is a section of the movie at the very end after they, get out of this mess, and there's hope. That scene is filmed in 35 millimeter. But, I think movies like this that are kind of going against the grain, I think they become hits, because they become like novelties. Kind of like Blair Witch Project. Blair Witch Project is like the opposite of what was popular at the time. A very, very cheap film stock. It could have been cameras like this. I don't know. But just, I think they spent like $11,000, something like that. I've heard a couple of different figures on Blair Witch. But Blair Witch came out 2 years before this did. And I think Blair Witch got a lot of directors thinking, Like, you can be a director and be in the business 30 years, and then a new director comes along and completely shakes the foundations of what is right and what is popular at the time. That's what's great about filmmaking. There's always somebody that comes along every few years and just shakes things up, even making like a cultural phenomenon, because that's what the Blair Witch was. It was a cultural phenomenon. And so it makes me wonder if 28 Days Later would exist if not for the Blair Witch Project. Like, was Danny Boyle influenced by the Blair Witch Project? At least in terms of the filming. Because the script probably already existed. Yeah, you got a nice scene where they're kind of like appreciating the countryside, which is pretty relevant right now. It seems like we're taking the time to slow down and appreciate what we have. It's kind of cool. Like, because we don't have that much going on during the day, so like you start getting into a routine. Like this morning, I got up, had breakfast, watched a show with the wife. Then we went to the track, got some exercise. I went for a 5K. She went for a walk around the track. Come home, have lunch. It seems like everything's more of a routine when you have situations like this. You try to make the most out of your day. And you appreciate the little things in life, like nature. Like going to the park. Like before I did this with you guys, I literally just came from the park. We take our dog, our Levi, and we take him to the park and just take him for a nice walk. So it is kind of nice to get away from the hustle and bustle of life. I guess pre-corona. Jason Nike says, in the 70s, Lucas and Spielberg changed everything. Yeah, they did. There was a big movement in the 70s with Scorsese, Spielberg, De Palma. It seems like every few years, I think like every generation, there's like a whole new set of directors that change the game, Like now, in the 90s, it was like Fincher, it was Danny Boyle, Quentin Tarantino, There's always like 4 or 5 of these guys that crop up. I'm wondering what Fincher's next movie is going to be, actually, because I love Fincher. Like, that guy could direct anything, and I'm in. Who do you think? Who do you guys think are the big directors today? You know, have we seen that? Have you seen that yet? You know, I guess you could say Denis Villeneuve. He's probably one of the big ones today. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else besides Denis Villeneuve that's really changing the game up a little bit. Yeah, this one is a lot more slower paced, small scale than Weeks. You know, Weeks is not the same movie. Weeks is very frantic, very high paced. It's the logical next step in. I still say there's going to be a third movie. This will be a trilogy, and I think Weeks is the logical next step. You know, where it's like the containment phase of it, you know, and so they're able to contain it to a certain location, and then society is starting to get back, and then the outbreak comes back. You know, so Weeks could kind of represent where we're going to be after we come out of quarantine. You know, the question is, what's going to happen? Is it going to crop up again? You know, they're saying in the fall there's going to be a second wave of this thing. So, I don't know. DeReal Sean, what's up, man? Nice to see you in here. Hey, Lee, I've been watching, but haven't been able to figure out why I wasn't able to join the chat. I'm happy I figured it out. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's because it was unlisted, and I always post the unlisted link right on Patreon, on the Patreon page. So it's very important that you guys don't go to my channel first, but go to the Patreon page, and then you'll see the link there, and then you can click on it. And then it'll bring you right here. So I'm glad you found us, though, man. James Wan's a big one, too, yeah. Michael Ricks, everyone loves James Wan and Jordan Peele these days. I'm not that big of a fan, but I guess Peele is decent. I loved Us. I thought Get Out was... I mean, from a directing standpoint, Get Out was great. I just didn't like the story as much. It was kind of like Stepford Wives. But I really loved Us, actually. You know, Us cemented him for me because I was a little worried. Like I said, I saw the talent there, but I was like, let me see what he brings out next. And after Us, now I'm really curious to see what Peele comes up with. Ari Aster, yes, thank you. Ari Aster, Robert Eggers. Those are two big names, too, today. You know, Hereditary and The Witch. Wow. S. Craig Zoller, great fucking director. Bone Tomahawk, Brawl and Con. Yeah, he's made some really good ones, actually. Bone Tomahawk, man. I still say Terrifier owes a debt to Bone Tomahawk, and if you've seen both movies, you know what I'm talking about. Nolan and Tarantino still make amazing movies. Yes, they do. My favorites are James Wan, Mike Flanagan, and the director of Brawl. You know, Mike Flanagan, I loved Hush, but it seems like everything else that he's put out so far, I've only been like, meh, it's okay. He's a good director, but I don't know, he hasn't like hooked me yet. Even Dr. Sleep, I wasn't like the biggest fan. And by the way, I was talking about Stephen King being such a big fan of 28 Days Later. And the character, what did I say her name was? I already forgot. Hold on. Let me look it up. There's a line that he paraphrased. Selena, yeah. There's a line that Stephen King paraphrased in the Dr. Sleep novel. He took it directly from one of her lines in this movie. And I even have the line right here. I wrote it down. It is, he needs us more than we need him. So that was a line earlier, I guess, when she was referring to Jim. Yeah, look at those empty streets, and then you just see. I never noticed this until now, actually. If you look at the top of your screen, you see an entire city in flames. This is the first time I've ever noticed that in this movie. A lot of those street signs kind of remind me of when I was stationed in Misawa, Japan. They look kind of similar. And the street signs in Misawa, you were lucky if you saw American writing on there, but every now and then you would. But I remember we went to Tokyo Disney, and navigating that that subway system that they have there was pretty damn challenging, actually. Yeah, Bone Tomahawk is freaking awesome. Andre Everdahl, yeah, that's another good one too. The Jane Doe, Autopsy of Jane Doe. Yeah, that's a good one. What's the other movie that Andre Everdahl did? There's another one. It's on the tip of my tongue. We got 11 people watching right now. Huh? That's pretty cool. Hell yeah. Yeah, one of the benefits that Danny Boyle had with this movie was, only having to focus on just a few characters. So, the second movie, I gotta say, there are a lot more characters in that movie, and they still do a good job of getting you invested in them. I think what I'm trying to do is to get Jason Nike to watch 28 Weeks Later. I think that's if I can do anything out of this stream, it's get Jason Nike to watch 28 Weeks Later. That's what I'm trying to do. If I'm being honest with myself. Cool fact: while in London years ago, we went to Greenwich, which is where the Cutty Sark ship is, and I noticed that the exact same spot in 28 Weeks Later where they escape the tunnel in flames. Oh, okay, interesting. Oh yeah, Mel Gibson is say what you want about Mel Gibson, but the guy is a phenomenal director. Not gonna lie. Gerald's Game, yes. Mike Flanagan, I gotta give him credit for Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game is great, actually. Oh yeah, here we go. I was talking about characters because I was setting up this scene right here, where the dad, up to this point, we really like this guy, right? We want him to survive. We want him to get to the end of the movie, and this just goes to show how insignificant, how little an event can completely change the course of the story. And just a drop of blood from a bird, an infected bird, drops into his eyeball. And then it just goes to show like how quick you can change. And so he looks over and he sees his daughter, and he knows that he's infected. And so he just starts telling her, "Get away from me." He knows that she literally has seconds. And he tells her, "I love you very much." He's saying his goodbyes, but he's saying, "Keep away." It's a heartbreaking scene. Can you imagine that, being a father and your daughter? Luckily she's got these other two people to take care of her, but he knows that he's not going to be able to be with his daughter anymore. He's going to turn into the infected. And he could possibly kill his daughter. Can you imagine? That's just the most frightening thing that one could possibly imagine. And he just got shot by the military. This is a section where the military come into play. Yeah, that gear they're wearing, we used to get, it's like chem warfare gear. When I was in the military, we would get issued that. Because you do these exercises usually like once a year if you're stateside. But if you deploy, or not deploy, but if you are stationed in Korea for a year, they do it once every 3 months. And every 3 months, you're on like a 12-hour shift, and you have to get in this chem warfare gear, and you have to play like the base is under attack, with chem warfare. And so it's a pain in the butt. It really is. It's just something you have to go through. The good thing about Korea, though, is they got their shit together. It's not a big, what we would call a clusterfuck. Everything's by the numbers, and you get through it. It's nice when the figureheads, the ones above, have their shit together. So that way, if you are in a situation that's a pain in the ass, you know that you're going to get through it. But I've been to other bases, mostly stateside, where it's always there's always some kind of issue that gets in the way. It always ends up being a clusterfuck. I like Taylor Sheridan too. He wrote Sicario and directed Wind River and Hell or High Water. Hell or High Water is a good flick, actually. I like that one. And Sicario is excellent. I like the second one. I really, really love the first one. Benicio del Toro was freaking awesome in that. Michael Rake says that's another good parallel with today too, trying to keep your kids away from this crap, but meanwhile you're out there in it and wondering what happens if you bring it home. You're the monster now. Yeah, I could not have said it better, Michael. We're kind of living that reality right now. Every time I go into a grocery store, it's scary, and I bring a mask with me when I go in there, but I'm very careful to try to keep my distance from people because you don't know. You don't know if anybody's got it. You don't know who the thing is, right? It's like we're living the movies that we love. But being in a situation like this, like 28 days later, it's pretty much like you're just waiting for the inevitable. It feels like hope is just gone. It's a pessimistic outlook, constant pessimistic outlook on life. It can really harden a person. And I really hope we don't get to that phase. I hope we don't get to that state in life where it gets that bad. And I guess that's why I kind of brought up, the whole thing with, apathy with, elderly people. It's sad that some people out there are willing to just say, you know what, you had your turn, let them die, and we can just go on. Because even if that were to happen, even if they were to die, that doesn't mean you're getting rid of the virus. And there have been a lot of cases of people that, are in their 30s, 40s, hell, even 20s that have died. It's a very unpredictable virus. So, empathy is the last thing that we want to get rid of right now. If anything, it's really, really important. It's more important than ever. Alexandra Aja needs to do some more films. He's got some good ones. Yeah, man, that remake of Hills Have Eyes. Wow, that is a great remake. Probably one of the best remakes out there. He did Crawl, didn't he? The alligator movie. That one's really good. I actually like that one. Now let me see if this is still going. Oh yeah, so I need to update that. I think I'm just gonna take it off of here. The chat. There we go. I'll just take it off. Sometimes the chat on my window doesn't catch up, but it's almost like unnecessary at this point because YouTube has that option now where you can just click on live chat while you're watching, a stream back, and you can see the chat through there. So you don't really need it on your actual screen. It's just kind of a nicety, but if it's not scrolling, then what's the point, right? So this kind of brings forward a different idea of, what's it like when the military gets involved? Are they going to make the situation worse or better? And they actually capture the infected and, I guess they test them, they watch them, they learn from them, which I think it's a good thing. But I don't know. It's sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes they go a little bit too far with it with their experiments. Who knows? But from being in the military myself, I would say the military always has the best interests at heart. Or at least I would like to think that. I've seen a lot of campaigns, where they go into other countries and, helping people out, providing aid. Luckily, that is a reality. Jason says, I would love to see a Thing movie where the Thing reaches a big city. I think there's a lot there you can do as long as it's practical. Yeah, I completely agree. I've actually thought about that before. Like, what if they did a Thing movie where it gets out into the public, I think there's a lot of different ways you could tell that story, actually. Maybe the second, like you could do like a trilogy of the Thing, and the second movie be in like a small town. You could still keep it kind of contained, but then, at the end of that movie, it would get out. And of course, in the third movie, it becomes even more of a large scale. But it seems like more times than not, at least in my opinion, when they go smaller scale with these types of movies, it always ends up being better. For some reason, I don't really know the reason. Maybe it's a character thing. You have more time with the characters actually to get to care about them. I think Weeks might be the exception because I still love the characters in Weeks, because I think the reason Weeks made it work is because even though there's so many people, they still focused on these core, I want to say 3-4 characters out of the whole thing. The two children, the mother, and the father. And everything kind of worked around them four. So that's how you do it. I think one reason why I've always preferred Weeks over Days too is, I'm not going to lie, I think there's a little bit more downtime in Days. Like, Days is one of those movies where there's a lot of downtime, but then those chaotic moments, they make them count. You know what I mean? Which can be more impactful because when it does happen, you don't see it coming. Like the father, with the bird, the drop of blood that hit him in the eye. So it is a lot more impactful. But whereas Weeks is, I think Weeks is better paced, because there's a lot more going on in Weeks. Because like I said, you have a larger cast, a larger crowd. And I think Weeks is broken up into a lot more phases. Like, I think this movie has like 3 phases to it. Your first act, your second act, and your third act. Whereas Weeks, I think, has probably 10 sections of the movie, and I'm just guessing, but somewhere around there, it's like you got to do this to get to this, to get to this, to get to this, and so everything is so fast paced in Weeks. Daryl, what snacks are you enjoying tonight? Well, I got my barbecue chips. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go get me another Butterfinger. I just had one of my little Butterfingers, and I had a granola bar, and I got my Coke and my lemon lime Gatorade, which is my favorite flavor of Gatorade. Do you guys like Gatorade? And if so, what's your favorite flavor? I'm going to go get me a Butterfinger. I'll be right back. Okay, shit's hitting the fan. And I got cookies and cream ice cream right here. No shame. Glacier Freeze and Cool Blue. I don't think I've tried Glacier Freeze yet. Surely I have, right? Horror works best when it's small and simple. Lee, have you seen The Lighthouse? Jason, not only have I seen The Lighthouse, but I have reviewed it, good sir. I reviewed it in black and white. Love The Lighthouse. Very good movie. Robert Eggers. Michael Rake says, I remember right before 28 Weeks Later came out, they did a lot of guerrilla advertising and actually projected a huge warning about the infected on the cliffs of Dover, UK, and people got scared. That's awesome. Now, by the way, let me drop this. For these Patreon live hangouts too, if you guys ever like have any questions for me as far as like YouTube, if any of you are like thinking about starting up your own channel, if you have any questions about like what gear I use or how I do things, feel free to ask. You know, that's one thing I like about these things too. It's kind of like Q&A. It's a good chance for me to get to know you guys better and vice versa. If you guys want to ask me any questions, feel free, you know. If I can help you guys in any way with whatever you're trying to achieve, then I'm more than happy to do that. Oh, God. That is freaking delicious. And are any of you going to work right now? Or are you guys like off work because of this coronavirus? Because I'm on my 3-day weekend. I have a 3-day weekend followed by a 1-day weekend every week. And so it's worth it because that 3-day weekend is so awesome. It's because I'm off tomorrow. So I was off yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And it's the greatest thing. It really is. Jason Mongol enjoys Powerade more than Gatorade. Wow. I'm a Gatorade guy. But I do like Powerade. The real Sean, I also like lemonade, which I get a lot of hate for, or lemon lime. Yeah, lemon lime's my favorite. I got it right here, lemon lime. So Jim's in a situation here because he's already stressed out to the nines because of the infected that's going on, but then he's got to deal with a whole new set of problems with the military, because with the military, at least in a lot of movies, there's this like control issue, you know, because in the military, it seems like in movies they want to control everything, and in a situation like this, they're probably going to want to do that anyway. Yeah, I agree, Mike. You know, these are very laid back. Like when I'm doing like a public commentary, I usually like stick to the movie. But when I'm doing this with you guys, we can just chill, you know, eat our snacks, talk about the movie, whatever. It's kind of cool. So, Jesse, I am working. So, you're at work right now. Cool. Still slaving away. Yeah, I still go to work 5 days a week. And I'm not going to lie, work, it's like a double-edged sword, you know? Like, I complain when I go to work because, of course, we'd all like to be home. But if I'm at home too long, you know, then you start wanting to get back to work. So it's weird, you know? Like, I appreciate that I have a job, but I think jobs make you appreciate your weekends more, you know? Like, you make the most of your weekends. Derek says, Lee, have you seen Dude Bro Party Massacre 3? No, I haven't. I don't even think I've ever heard of that one. Brock, lost my job last month because of all this, but unemployment came through. That's good. That's good. I'm supposed to be getting my stimulus check in too. I haven't gotten that yet, but I had to go in and put my banking information into the irs.gov. So hopefully I should get my stimulus check tomorrow. So that's what I'm hoping for. Because need that money. Yeah, Brock Savage, hopefully they're tossing cash your way. I think my thing with this is I think once we get out of this and they open the doors of these businesses again, I think there's going to be a lot more job openings. And I think those that are looking for work are going to find work. You know, I think that's what's going to happen. So Brock, I think you're definitely going to get another job, man. I just know it. I don't drink any kind of juices. I like coffee and tea, beer, whiskey, and water. I love tea. Like, for some reason, anytime I go to a restaurant, I almost never get soda. I always get tea. And maybe that's just the southern in me, but when I grew up, my mom always had a pitcher of tea in the fridge. Every day she'd make a fresh pitcher of tea. And so that's kind of always stayed with me. I love tea, especially like hot tea, pouring it over ice. Oh my God, that's like the best thing ever. So the military, they have everybody in quarantine pretty much now. They're keeping everybody locked up. Let me check my notes here. I actually wrote down some notes for this movie. Let's see. We talked about 9/11. I talked about it being one of the first films shot digitally. Isolated settings. I talked about that. Boyle used a lot of photos from disaster. Yeah, I talked about that. Started as Ebola. Yeah, I pretty much talked about everything that's on my list here. Yeah, when I do my anytime I do a review, like, you know what, I'm going to show you guys something. Let me pull this up on OBS. When I do a review, I always pull up a Word document. When I first started YouTube, I used to write it out by hand. But a new thing is I do it through a Word document because it just saves paper and it's a lot easier. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add a window. Let's see, window capture. And we'll just call it window capture. Yeah, here we go. Okay, yeah, so you can see my notes right there. That's for Tourist Trap. I recorded that today. I recorded Tourist Trap. What was that other movie I recorded? Oh, Final Destination 3. And then top 10 pandemic movies. So, since you guys are my patron, I'm going to give you the sneak peek. So here's like the notes I took for Tourist Trap. Just things that pop out at me when I'm watching the movie. Usually I'll watch the movie. And if something pops out during that movie that I feel like needs to go in my notes, I throw it in there. Like, Tourist Trap. I talk about Slauson. I talk about how his brother had an affair with his wife. I always want to mention mannequins. If there's mannequins in a horror movie, I'm going to talk about that shit. Make note of what type of movie it is. It's a different type of slasher, not your typical blah, blah, blah. Irwin Yablans actually had something to do with it. I didn't even mention that in the review, but Irwin Yablans, you might remember him from Halloween. He's the guy that kind of got the ball rolling on Halloween. And he actually wanted the movie to have more of a score like Halloween. I think it benefited from not having a score like Halloween. But, that's just an example. Little notes that I take when I'm doing reviews. Same thing with Final Destination 3. Some weight room kill. Had to talk about some of the kills in there. And what's funny is like a lot of times, let me switch back over to here real quick. I'll show you that top 10 too real quick. Hold on. Where's that at? Oh, is that up on my... Yeah. I'll show you that top 10 too. Hold on just a sec. Top 10. Here we go. Yeah, so here's my top 10 for pandemic horror. I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek, okay? Girl with All the Gifts, and I actually added one. I added 28 Weeks Later in there as another honorable mention, because I like to do at least like 2 honorable mentions. But, Night of the Creeps, just a lot of fun ones in there. I always try to add a couple that you might not see coming, like It Comes at Night. Train to Busan, which is a great one. That's my pandemic list. But, yeah, just to kind of give you guys a little sneak peek on how I put my notes together and all that stuff, Okay, I like brisk iced tea as well. Michael Rake says, Jason Mongol, yeah, I have a bad feeling we'll feel this one in the wallet in the long run. But what can you do? Yeah, no, it's rough out there right now. Lee, I know you like monsters. I do too. But have you tried the Nas energy drinks? They are my favorite when it comes to energy drinks. Honestly, it's funny. Like, I think I prefer the taste of Red Bull. Like, Red Bull does have a little bit of a better taste, but for some reason, I still just get the Monster. I don't know why. I think because Monster, you get a little bit more in there, and Red Bulls are expensive. Or Monsters are expensive too, though. But I don't know. There's really no rhyme or reason to my choices in energy drinks. Nas is good, especially the fruit punch. I try to dodge the energy drinks these days, but if the need arises, I like that one. Final Destination was supposed to be an X-Files episode with Mulder and Scully. I think there's a few movies that were based on, or that were supposed to be X-Files episodes, actually. Michael Rake's Irwin Yablans is the dude that told Carpenter, make a movie about a guy killing babysitters, and that's it. Yep, pretty much. Carpenter worked his magic. Carpenter wrote the script, but Irwin Yablans kind of steered him in the direction he wanted to go. And I believe Irwin Yablans was the guy that said, make it about Halloween. Because he researched and found that there were no movies in the history of cinema titled Halloween. Which is crazy if you ask me. So what's the status on They Live collecting dust? I actually thought about watching it the other day. I just never got around to it, but I'm definitely doing They Live this year. That's all I can tell you right now. I'm really looking forward to it, though. I know it's one of those movies I know when I watch it, it's going to be great. Just like when I did Prince of Darkness. I freaking loved Prince of Darkness, and I was so glad I finally watched it. But They Live is definitely coming. Really having a blast hanging with you guys, though. This is cool. Sean, I know what you mean. I had to cut soda out a while back for the same problem. Cutting soda out is a good thing anyway. Really. So this final act of the movie is more about like escaping the police security than it is fighting the and they kind of use the infected to help them get out. You know, they use them in their favor. You need to check out Midnight Meat Train. A lot of people have told me Midnight Meat Train's really good. Vinnie Jones, of course. And Vinnie Jones, like in real life, the guy's a badass. Wasn't he like a soccer player? Like there's that picture of him like squeezing this guy's nuts on the field. And it's hilarious. I watched Body Bags last night. How is that, Jason? I've always been curious about Body Bags. And is that like a full-length movie, or is Body Bags just like a short or something? So Clive Barker wrote Midnight Meat Train. I didn't even know that. Soul Survivor 1984, I heard inspired Final Destination. Interesting. Yeah, because Final Destination, that's an irresistible premise. Like, it sounds like it's an easy premise to come up with. So I'm sure that that movie wasn't... there was, like, something that predated that movie that inspired it. Yeah, that one guy that played the infected, the guy that's captured by the police, that guy did a really good job. He's the guy that's right there on my freaking background. But I really liked his like quick, jerky movements throughout. But the military, they're not the best people in this movie. And they're pretty much taking advantage of the women. Body Bags is a compilation like Creep Show. Okay. So he directed... Did he direct Body Bags? I got questions. I know Carpenter, I think he directed Dark Star, which eventually became Alien. Because Dan O'Bannon was part of that. Dan O'Bannon was actually in Dark Star. And eventually he took some of the ideas from Dark Star and wrote Alien. Oh man, he just spit like an entire, like a bucket's worth of blood, like all over the dude's face. Jesus. Carpenter directed... James Richter, what's up, man? Nice to see you in here. Carpenter directed Story About Killer at Haddonfield Convenience Stop. Is that Halloween? Here's a little bit of trivia for you, though. remember Carpenter, he directed Someone's Watching Over Me, right? Someone's Watching Over Me is about a character, Lauren Hutton, who lives in a high-rise. And there's a killer stalking her. So it's like a slasher movie. It was a TV movie back in the day. The original idea of Halloween 2 was actually Laurie Strode living in a high-rise. And Michael Myers was going to get her in the high-rise. So really, in a way, that movie was made. But it just wasn't called Halloween 2. It was called Someone's Watching Over Me. So I hope I blew one of your minds. And Toby Hooper directs one of the episodes. Okay. Daryl Sean says, you recommend Demons to me on my birthday, but wasn't able to watch it because I didn't have it. So I ordered it today. I'm excited to watch it. That movie is so good. That's a guarantee. You did not waste your money at all, Sean. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. I loved Demons. It was so good. It's fun. You know, it's Italian horror, and the whole movie takes place in a movie theater. What's not to like about that? And it's got an awesome freaking 80s metal soundtrack, you know? There's like, they used a song from Motley Crue off of a Theater of Pain album that's like never played. And it's like one of my favorite songs on the album. I'm trying to remember the name of the song. But it's really good. I think it's Save Our Souls. I was just thinking about it. It's Save Our Souls, I think. Save our souls for the heaven. That song is in Demons. So it's got a really cool 80s soundtrack. You'll see like some references to like Terminator in there too. There's a lot of love for like 80s movies, American movies in that movie because they're in a movie theater and you'll see like these movie posters and one of them is for the Terminator. But it's bloody as hell. It's scary. It's got some really graphic stuff in it. You're going to enjoy it. You're really going to enjoy it, and you're going to thank me after. I'm telling you. Demons is awesome. I really love the way the infected look in this movie. You know, there's just like this, I don't know, like this deadness in their eyes, you know? A lot of quick, jerky movements, too. You could tell that Danny Boyle and them, it makes me wonder if like they had all this planned out when they were writing the script as far as what the infected would do, how they would act, or if it's something that they just kind of figured out on set, you know? Guys, I love not being able to go, not having to go to work tomorrow. I really do. Yeah, Someone's Watching Over Me is great. Yes, it is. I just watched it for the first time a couple months ago. I'm gonna review it, but I want to watch it one more time. Michael Elrics, my biggest question is, why was a pimp taking a nice film with two of his ladies in Demons? Does that shit happen? Taking in a nice film with two of his ladies in Demons. Probably does happen, you know? Because pimps, they go by their own rules. And they don't really give a shit. You know, I think if you're like getting into filmmaking, and I've always wanted to like make my own like short film, I think 28 Days Later would be a good movie to kind of mimic, to look at how shots are done, because like I said, it's filmed with very low budget cameras. So it really shows you what can be done even with the smallest, shittiest camera. You know, it's a great way to practice. But this movie is just a great point of reference. And this is a pivotal moment in the movie, too. You know, they're under attack, And Jim pretty much becomes like the infected. Like he's literally killing this guy. He's shoving his thumbs in the guy's eye sockets. So he's pretty much becoming the infected, even though he's not infected. You know, it turns a person into a really hard type of person. You know, it turns him into a killer. It's like violence breeds violence, you know? Yeah, this is a blast. I'm having a blast hanging with you guys. Wayne Brady, best pimp ever. I love that Dave Chappelle skit. Wayne Brady, he's like, because he's such like, you know, he's the nice guy on TV, but then it shows him like what he's like behind the scenes, and he acts like a pimp. Yeah, this has been a blast, guys. You notice too, there's a lot of shots in this movie where Danny Boyle he has the camera like, you know, really close up. You know, a lot of close up types of shots, and I think it seems like a lot of young filmmakers when they first start out, maybe they're a little bit hesitant to put the camera in that close. You know, a lot of people want to do those medium shots or even like wide shots, but sometimes you got to get those close-ups, especially when you're on a low budget. Sometimes I think close-ups make your film look better, you know? Make it look bigger. It's a little deceptive. But also the cuts. Like if you watch this movie, there are a lot of cuts, you know? It's not the camera sitting there for 10 seconds, you know? If you count the seconds every time the camera is on a subject in this movie, you're lucky to get 2 seconds. You know, there are a lot of cuts, and I think, you know, they're doing that for a couple of reasons. They're doing that because they're using such low grade film, and then the second reason is because the type of shot it is. You know, when you're shooting chaos, you want your you know, you want to show a lot of cuts. You want the camera to feel chaotic. It kind of reminds me of when Rambo 4. If you watch the behind the scenes on Rambo 4, there's like a documentary. I can't recommend that documentary enough because it shows Stallone, his directing style in the movie. He's like, I'm directing this movie, but how do I do this? He was trying to figure out what approach to take. He's like, you know what I'll do? I'll approach this as if Rambo himself is directing this movie. So when you watch Rambo 4, you'll notice that it's a lot of like jerky movements with the camera. The camera seems uncertain throughout the movie. The camera seems like it's kind of, you know, always alert, you know, kind of stalking its prey. And that's because the camera is pretty much Rambo. It's like Rambo's directing the movie. You know, this is all behind the scenes. This is not stuff that I observed. This is exactly what Stallone wanted to do with the movie. And I think it was genius. And if you compare the fourth Rambo to the first movie, First Blood, just from like a directing standpoint, the way the camera moves is very different in the first movie. It feels more traditional in the first movie, whereas in the fourth movie, it feels almost like Rambo has taken over. It's like a natural progression of the character. And I think they had to go that route because it just made it feel more realistic, I think, you know? Like where do you take the character at this point, because nobody thought Rambo 4 was going to be good. I mean, let's be honest. So this scene right here, this is all in 35 millimeter. You can tell that the quality is very much different. It's better. And the reason he did that, like I said, is it's like an aftermath type of shot. You know? He wanted this scene to represent, I guess, rebirth. You know, the other side. And you can see Jim looks happier now, looks healthier, and they're starting to rebuild their lives, you know? Rambo 4 had a lot of gore in it, more than I had thought. Rambo 4 is the bloodiest action movie to this date that I've ever seen. It is that bloody, and it shocked me seeing that movie in theaters. I thought I was just going to be seeing your standard Rambo film. And then about halfway, you know what it was? The boat scene. When he's on the boat, he's got the girl with him, that he's protecting, and her husband with her. Or her boyfriend, whoever it was. But the Burmese pirates, they come aboard, and Rambo, he just turns it on just like that. Within like half a second, he pulls the gun out and just freaking kills him like it's nothing. From that moment on, I was like, wow, this is a different Rambo movie. As hard as Rambo is, he has never been this vicious. And so I think that scene right there really set the tone of the movie. So, Sean, you're watching Cobra tonight. Hell yeah, man. Cobra is a classic. Jesse Yarborough, this is great. Not many horror fans around here, so it's nice to be amongst more fans. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, this ain't work for me. I actually look forward to our monthly hangouts. I have a blast hanging with you guys. It's always fun. Really, if you think about it, Jesse, that's kind of the reason I got into YouTube in the first place, is because, just like you said, everywhere I was, nobody talked about horror movies, hell, even movies in general. When I was in the military and I'd be at work, I would want to get some kind of conversation going, and most of the time, it was people, they weren't interested, or they just didn't even bother to go to the theater and see the movies. And I'm one of these types of people that, if something good's coming out, I go see it first weekend. The theater is like my church. I love being at the theater. I'll go see bad movies. I just like going to the movies. So, but a lot of times I'd go to work on Monday and I'd say, hey, I went and seen this movie. Crickets. Nobody had seen the movie. Nobody wanted to talk about movies. Everybody wanted to talk about football. And I got nothing against football. I'm just not a football guy, but I love talking movies. So, it had gotten to the point where people would I don't know, it's like people would judge you or even make fun of you because you like movies, that you're a cinephile, I guess. And I think film lovers are some of the smartest people on the planet. I really do, and I think they're more open-minded about things, they're not so close-minded about every little thing. And that's just like a general observation that I've seen. I could be wrong, but I truly believe that. I really do, They're free thinkers. And that's why I love being into movies. It's just too cool. So I'm glad that I can actually do this with you guys. It's awesome. Well, we got through it, guys. We finished 28 days later. I had it was very loose. We talked about the movie when we wanted to, and then we talked about life, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. But, we hung out with each other. We talked about other movies. We talked about The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises. We probably talked about another couple of some Carpenter. We always talk about some kind of Carpenter stuff, right? When you're on a stream with me, Carpenter's going to enter the frame at some point. So, yeah, football and politics. That's all what everybody talks about. Yeah, you're right. Derek, Lee, have you watched the Into the Dark series that they put on Hulu? I've watched a few of the Into the Darks. I watched the New Year, New You, which was directed by the same girl that directed the Black Christmas remake, which I hate that movie. But New Year, New You was actually interesting. I actually liked it. She actually has talent as a director. I will definitely give her that. I just didn't like that story that they told in Black Christmas. I don't know. I know she wrote it. I don't know if her original intent was to be that in your face about the subject matter, because I believe before it was Black Christmas, it was going to be just a completely different property, and they figured, hey, we got the rights to Black Christmas, let's turn this into a Black Christmas remake. So, but yeah, I've watched a few of those Into the Dark specials. I watched one called The Body. I think I saw a little bit of that one. It's some interesting stuff. It was a great first watch for this guy. Glad I finally watched it. Derek, so are you talking about 28 days later? Yeah, it's a good movie. It is. I like 28 Days Later. It's definitely one of the best zombie movies out there, I think. And I like that it's different than the Romero stuff, you know? Romero's got his own brand, and I'm glad that this went a different direction. Growing up, I had buddies like me who loved horror, but they've all moved away years ago, and so places like this are a breath of fresh air. Still my favorite channel and people on YouTube. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Mike. Yeah. I mean, YouTube in general, I like the horror community, you know? It's nice to have a bunch of like-minded folk. I mean, you know, just finding people to talk about movies is a tough enough task. But finding people that actually love horror as much as you do, it's almost impossible outside of the internet. Luckily, when I was at my last base at Moody Air Force Base, Georgia, one of my buddies, God, I'm trying to remember his name now. It's been so long. I forget names like you won't believe. And he was like one of my best friends at. And in the military, everybody refers to each other by their last names, by the way. So maybe that's one reason why we forget each other's names. But this guy, me and him, we would talk horror all the time. His daughter was like a horror fanatic. And that was refreshing because most bases I go to, there aren't any horror fans at all. You know, if I find one, I'm usually lucky. So it's nice to find a fan base that I can talk about Night of the Creeps with, because I can't talk about Night of the Creeps to anybody outside of you guys. There's no way in hell anybody's going to know what Night of the Creeps is. Hell, my wife doesn't even know what Night of the Creeps is, if I'm being honest. So, it's not that easy. Lee, have you seen Wormwood? No, I have not seen Wormwood. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen that one yet. No. So, anyway, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. We did it. We got through 28 days later. Definitely thinking about what we're going to watch for the next month. What is next month? May? So, next month is kind of the start of summer. So, maybe Jaws? You know? What would you guys think about doing like a Jaws movie or a summer? Or Friday the 13th, the first one? We did Friday Part 2. But or The Burning, or, you know, maybe a good summer horror movie for next month. You know, I'll get some ideas from you guys, and we can figure it out. Because I do love talking about summer horror movies. You know, I get excited about summer. I wish I could get excited about this summer, but given the current situation that we're in, it's going to be weird having a summer with no big movies to go to, you know? Very, very strange. At least that's the way it's looking. Maybe by July they'll have some of this stuff figured out and we will have some good movies to go to, but I don't know. Next to horror, I love action movies. Yeah, I love action movies too. And yeah, and that's... Oh, actually, we were saying that maybe next time we'll do something fun and light. Like, I think we're going to do like Weird Science. And maybe we can do Weird Science in like a couple weeks. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'll field that to everybody on the Patreon page. But... yeah, I think Weird Science would be a really fun one to do for the, you know, do a nice light comedy. That'd be great. Yeah, The Burning could be fun though. But like I said, maybe we could do, instead of doing one commentary, we could do 2 commentaries next month. We could do one for the comedy, and then do one. Oh my God, Star Wars May 4th. That'd be cool if we did a Star Wars movie, actually. Man, you guys got me thinking now. Jesus. All right. So we got Star Wars, we got The Burning, we got Weird Science. Jesus, my freaking brain's fried. So a lot of good ones to consider. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging with me. I really had a blast. You guys make this like so easy and fun. But yeah, It Follows could be a lot of fun too. That'd be a great one to do, actually. A lot of things to discuss with that movie. So, I'd love to get like a patron. If I could get like all my patrons to get, you know, wouldn't it be cool if I could get like 50 of you to come together and we could all do something? It's tough though, because we all have lives, you know, it's hard. But I actually prefer doing my live streams with just you guys instead of making these public. And this was perfect. You know, I mean, we got up to 10 people in this one, so I think that's awesome. So, anyway, I guess we're going to hang it up for the night, guys. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I had a blast talking about 28 Days Later with you guys. And more importantly, just stay safe out there, guys. Take care of each other. Take care of your loved ones. And man, you guys just keep throwing ideas at me. Rogue One. I love Rogue One. That's a great one. But Trading Places. Oh, my God. Eddie Murphy's so good in that. Yeah, John Hughes is awesome. All right, guys. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and hang it up. You guys have an awesome night, and look for me on the Patreon page. I like to update that thing at least once every other day. So anyway, stay safe, guys. Love you guys.